Kenny Omega is the AEW World Champion again. I need a second with that sentence because going into tonight, I didn't know if I'd be saying it. Beach Break was supposed to be just a stacked episode of Dynamite. What we ended up getting was an actual 2-hour pay-per-view for free. So let's get into it. Before we even get to the matches, I want to point out something about the card itself of this episode. Kyle Fletcher versus Konosuke Takeshita for the AEW International Championship. Kenny Omega versus MJF for the AEW World Championship, with the stipulation that Kenny Omega can never challenge for the AEW World Championship ever again if he loses. A Casino Gauntlet match with essentially the entire women's division in it. That is not at all a normal episode of wrestling television. That is pay-per-view level booking, and AEW just put it on Dynamite. If this exact card existed in WWE, Fletcher versus Takeshita alone gets saved for the next big pay-per-view. AEW just does it on a Wednesday. That alone is worth sitting with before we even get to how good the wrestling was. The show opened with Chris Jericho against Tommaso Ciampa. These two have been trading shots on Dynamite and Collision since Jericho's feud with Ricochet ended at Double or Nothing, it was, I believe. It felt like they've been feuding for a month with no match for a while. Ciampa won, and given that Redemption is later this month in Canada, I have a feeling that this isn't over, that Jericho gets his home crowd in Canada for a rematch, and that's exactly the kind of spot that AEW loves to save for. Takeshita versus Fletcher. Now this is where the show really kicked into gear. 20 minutes of two guys who are just technically flawless in the ring, and the intensity never once let up. Turnbuckle brainbuster, reversal after reversal. It's the kind of match where you can feel that both of them are trying to prove something, and Kyle Fletcher won. And I'll be honest, I did not see that coming. Part of me wanted Takeshita to get a bit more of a longer reign with the title, but I am genuinely excited to see what Fletcher does with it. He was great with the TBS title, and the international title gives him a bigger stage to keep building on that. And the aftermath is where things get really interesting for the future. Don Callis comes out to celebrate with Fletcher, Foley has some words for him, Kevin Knight comes out too, and there's clearly tension between Kevin Knight and Kyle Fletcher. I don't think any of that gets paid off soon, probably a story after All In, but it's there. AEW is clearly setting up the board for it. Then Andrade comes out, cuts us promo that's mostly in Spanish, which I didn't understand, and Don Callis offers him a match against Jack Doyle, which gives him a chance against Mark Davis for the national championship, which to me is a strange offer, considering Andrade's whole thing since leaving the family has been about wanting the world title. Not the national title, but sure. Andrade then gets chased backstage by Brian Cage, Kevin Knight, and Jack Doyle. Okay, it's Jake Doyle. I keep saying Jack Doyle. I'm sorry about that. And this is where Darby Allin shows up with his backpack and skateboard. Kevin Knight, smartly after what happened to him at Forbidden Door, refuses to open the bag. So instead they go for Darby's skateboard, and that's what explodes in Brian Cage's face instead. It was a really fun segment, and it keeps Andrade's story moving forward. I'm genuinely happy for this guy, and he's doing some of the best work of his career right now. Right after that, Ospreay's music hits and we get straight into Jon Moxley and Will Ospreay tagging together again. I'm not even sure if this is back-to-back weeks of them tagging, because last week's episode of Dynamite just feels so far away because of how hectic this week has been between the World Cup and everything going on in WWE. But this was genuinely great stuff. The ending was great, with Ospreay hitting the Styles Clash, simultaneously Moxley hitting the pile driver, and then Ospreay sort of closes it out with the hidden blade, which I have to admit something embarrassing here. I've only just clocked that the Hidden Blade is an Assassin's Creed reference. I've been playing through the Black Flag remake recently, and in that you have the Hidden Blade, and I was like, oh, Ospreay also hits the Hidden Blade, and I was like, how did I not realize that sooner? But yeah, there it is. At this point, we're like an hour into the show, but it doesn't feel like it. It feels like we're only like 20 minutes in. Next was the Casino Gauntlet match to decide the #1 contender to challenge Tekla at Redemption. One quick thing I want to flag before we get into this. Athena and Maya World on Collision had matches to decide the #1 and #2 spot in this Casino Gauntlet match. And I don't understand the logic of fighting for the entry position, because don't you want to get into this match as late as possible so that you can come in fresh while everyone else is down? But you guys, if any of you know why that is the case, please explain to me the reason. It could be like so that, you know, you can get in early, get a pinfall early before anyone else comes in, and then you win it. So either way, it's a mining booking quirk, not really a complaint. And plus it gave us like 2 matches on Collision, so I'm not complaining. What matters is that Willow Nightingale returned from injury and won the whole thing. And honestly, she needed that. She was building up so much momentum with the TBS title before she got injured, and coming back to immediately be positioned for a world title at Redemption is exactly the kind of story you want to see for someone coming back from injury. This match also did something bigger than just decide a number 1 contender. It reminded everyone that the AEW women's division is stacked. I think there's a perception out there that it's a tier below WWE's, and matches like this prove that that's not true. There's real depth in that division. MJF versus Kenny Omega. Okay, this is the one we need to get into properly. I want to be upfront about this. I was rooting for Kenny Omega from the beginning, so factor that into what I'm about to say. But I don't think I need the bias to tell you that this is one of the best finishes to a wrestling match I've watched in a long time. Kenny went up to the lifeguard stand, I think that's what it's called, moonsault off it, and landed in a way that it got sand directly in his eyes. He spent a solid chunk of the match just wiping his face, pouring water in his eye to like clear it. I genuinely felt for the guy. That must have sucked. Trying to wrestle at that level while half blind from sand in your eye, that must be miserable. But that finish is exactly what I'm gonna be thinking about for days. MJF pulls out the World Championship to use as a weapon. It's a classic MJF technique. Then the referee sees it, takes it away from him. He goes for the Dynamite Diamond Ring, and then Will Ospreay runs out and rips the ring right out of MJF's hand. I love that. I love that Ospreay decided who is involved in this, because he's the one who's heading to Wembley. His ticket to the All-In main event is already punched, and instead of staying neutral, he's actively deciding who he's gonna face there, and he thinks that Kenny deserves it. Then the title ends up in Omega's hand. For a second I thought he was gonna hit MJF with it. I wanted him to hit MJF with it, and MJF drops to his knees, basically begging him not to. It reminded me so much of a Cody Rhodes John Cena spot. I can't remember exactly which one or which match it was from. I think it was their match at SummerSlam, but the same moment of being at the other guy's mercy. 3 V-triggers, 1 winged angel, MJF is officially down, and Kenny Omega is your new AEW World Champion. The graphic has already been shown. All in Wembley Stadium, Kenny Omega defends the World Championship against Will Ospreay. I think that's locked now. I know some people have been floating the idea around of a triple threat to keep MJF involved, and I get the appeal of it, but I actually prefer it being one-on-one, particularly between Kenny and Ospreay. Ospreay's entire story since returning at Revolution has been building towards this one moment. Adding a third guy to that dilutes that a bit. AEW still has 2.5 months to figure out something for MJF. Whether that's Darby, Kevin Knight, Andrade, or someone else, they'll figure it out. As for the title reign itself, we're in the middle of July right now. All In is at the end of August. So Omega's getting roughly a 2-month reign with it. 1 pay-per-view in his home country along the way before he defends it at Wembley. That feels like the right amount of time. Long enough for it to matter, and short enough that it doesn't take away from what happens at All In. I think it was smart for AEW to have him win the title on Dynamite so that they can have Kenny Omega defend it at Revolution. It is gonna be absolutely epic. Like, Kenny Omega with this match and his match against Zack Sabre Jr. has shown that he can absolutely still go, and he can be absolutely amazing, and I cannot wait to see what he does there. But yeah, after watching Raw, SmackDown, and Dynamite in the same week, I can say hands down that Dynamite is the best wrestling show on television right now. The gap between Monday Night Raw and this episode of Dynamite is just genuinely night and day. I don't want to linger on this for too long because A, this is a Dynamite review, and 2, I want to stop sounding like a broken record at this point because I say this often, but yeah, it's Dynamite clears. We need to do a proper video on Ospreay's arc soon. I think it genuinely feels complete now. We have enough of the story since Revolution, and we gotta do it. It deserves its own breakdown. I'll see if I can get the time to do it before or after Revolution. We'll see. But for tonight, Kenny Omega is your AEW World Champion. Omega versus Ospreay is your All-In main event, and AEW just gave away a pay-per-view on free television. That's been Beach Break. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.